All right, let's get going. Today is the day, the big day. We've got a bunch of European leaders in the White House, arriving at the White House as we speak. Obviously, there is President Zelenskyy from Ukraine, French President Macron, German Chancellor Merz, British PM Starmer, Italian PM Maloney, Finnish President Stubb, the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, and then Native Secretary General Root. So that's a lot of European brass showing up at the White House as we speak. So, it looks like did they just end that? Let's see, trying to get this back. They must, I feel like everyone must have arrived then. Let's see. So we'll go over here to our Ukraine scene. So earlier they had, a red carpet out and a bunch of Marines greeting the leaders as they were coming. It looks like I might have just missed Zelenskyy's arrival. He wasn't supposed to get there until another 8 minutes, so might have missed that. Oh well. But anyways, we'll read up a little bit about what's going on here. So obviously this is about to happen right now. There's going to be in and out press coverage of this, kind of on and off. So we'll try and see hear what we can hear. I'm going to leave this on in the background in case people start talking and all that. Hopefully we'll be able to tune right back in nice and quickly. So this is from the Associated Press. Ukraine's future could hinge on hastily assembled meeting Monday at the White House as President Zelenskyy brings an extraordinary group of European leaders to show President Trump a united front against Russia. The European leaders were left out at Trump's summit with President Putin on Friday, a couple days ago, and they want to safeguard Ukraine and the continent from any widening aggression from Moscow. Many are coming with the explicit goal of protecting Ukraine's interests, a rare and sweeping show of diplomatic force. Hey, that's a very accurate statement right there. Rare showing. It's kind of sad that it took Trump inviting Putin to America for these guys to finally do something. But hey, if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. By coming as a group, they hope to avoid debacles like Zelenskyy's February meeting in the Oval Office, where Trump chastised him for not showing enough gratitude for the U.S. military aid. Trump and Zelenskyy were due to meet in the Oval Office before European leaders joined them. I watched that whole meeting. It was about an hour, not quite an hour, and it was very cordial for the first 50 minutes. And then what happened in that meeting, and I remember because I watched it. You'll probably see this is probably about a 60-second clip here. Tops. Oh, 2 minutes.
Wait a minute. No. You've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big.
So what led to this conversation? The AP they're past the point of being able to hide the fact that they despise Trump. But what led to this was Trump had thrown out a number of how much aid the United States had given Ukraine, and it was by pretty much all estimates it was an inflated number, but Zelenskyy then started arguing about that number and saying, no, the United States actually hasn't given more aid than Europe. And so it's one of those things where Trump wasn't necessarily saying the truth about it, but also like, was it worth arguing about? And then, of course, it led to this argument.
I know.
It was really a striking display in the Oval Office.
Your country is in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No. You've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
It was really a...
Yeah, I guess that's all they want to show about it. But the thing is, Zelenskyy came to the White House. He doesn't have any bargaining power because Ukraine doesn't really have any power. All their power has been derived from the support that they've gotten from other countries. So, to come into the White House and start debating dollar amounts and stuff like that. It probably not the best strategy, whether Trump was being truthful or not. You know. Let's see. Companies group. They hope to avoid that. Let's see, we got some noise happening here. Looks like more people have gathered. Maybe Zelenskyy hasn't arrived yet, so he might still be here in just a couple minutes. I really wish I could pop this out, but unfortunately, you can't pop out videos out of X. Got a Ukrainian flag, an American flag. So I think he's set to arrive any moment, it seems. The meetings are also a test of America's relationship with its closest allies after the EU and the UK accepted Trump's tariff hikes, partly because they wanted his support on Ukraine. It's important that America agrees to work with Europe to provide security guarantees for Ukraine and therefore all of Europe. The night before the meeting, however, Trump seemed to put the onus on Zelenskyy to agree to concessions and suggested that Ukraine could not regain Crimea, which Russia annexed in 2014, and then set off the conflict, more or less, that exists now. See, they've zoomed out there. Fox still has this shot going.
Regardless of the polling, we are.
Reuters is following the Air Canada strikes.
In order for that to be a basis of an ultimate peace deal, how successful?
I'm not saying it's not important, but I mean, come on. All right. Zelenskyy appeared to respond with his own post late Sunday, saying, "We all share a strong desire to end this war quickly and reliably." He said that peace must be lasting, not as it was after Russia seized Crimea and part of the Donbass in eastern Ukraine 8 years ago, and Putin simply used it as a springboard for the new attack. The sit-down in Alaska yielded the possible contours for stopping the war in Ukraine, though it was unclear whether the terms discussed would ultimately be acceptable. Well, and we don't really even know what the terms discussed were. Zelenskyy said in a social media post he met with Trump's special envoy for Ukraine, Keith Kellogg, on Monday ahead of the scheduled talks with Trump to discuss battlefield situation and the shared strong diplomatic capabilities of the U.S., Ukraine, and Europe. So it's a minute till 1 Eastern time. Zelenskyy should be there any second. You'll see everyone stand up super straight once that limo arrives. I've had to do this before where you're the flag bearer. You just stand there with the flag for an official event. I locked my knees and I almost passed out. Fell over. It was in Iraq. It was like 105 degrees out. We were doing a change of command ceremony. They had me at the front of the formation. I almost passed out. And to go sit down and someone else took over. Surprised there's no sound on this.
Again, some steps to be taken without the threat of sanctions on Russia. Again, a lot of people would disagree with that. I think that Putin and the Kremlin respond only to pressure.
Really appreciate you taking the time. Donald Jensen, thank you very much indeed, sir. It's just gone 17 GMT hours, and a delegation of top European leaders are at the White House for a high-stakes meeting. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelenskyy and US President Donald Trump aimed at ending the conflict with Russia. The leaders of France, Germany, the UK, Italy and Finland, as well as the head of the European Union and NATO, have all flown to Washington in a show of support for Ukraine. This extraordinary meeting comes days after the summit in Alaska between Trump and Russia's President Vladimir Putin. Earlier on Monday, the European contingent met at the Ukrainian embassy before travelling to the White House. Ahead of the meeting at the White House, Ukraine's Vladimir Zelenskyy reiterated he would apply to joint pressure on Russia to end the war and stop the killings. Now, we're going to be live in Kyiv. First, we're going to head to the White House. We're going to speak to Kimberly Harker. Kimberly, so in the last hour or so, we've seen those European leaders arriving at the White House. And as we've been discussing, each of them is bringing their own specific style and specific relationship with Donald Trump to the table. And it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out when it comes to the negotiations.
Yeah, and to pick up on the expert and the discussion you were having just moments ago, I think it's important to add that it's not just the EU leaders, but it's also congressional leaders. And while you were discussing that perhaps there wasn't significant pressure on the U.S. in the form of sanctions, that's not off the table. In fact, just the opposite. And Russia is aware of that. If you listen to any of the statements over the weekend by Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State and also the National Security Advisor.
Hey, what's up, MG?
Right
I just completely realized I don't have my my chat program up. Hopefully I haven't missed too many comments.
That eventually they may wind up with Russia leaving these discussions, but the goal is to keep
now those will pop through. Whoopsies! Sort of I just thought to myself, man, I haven't had a kick bot yet.
Going to be, bypassed altogether. In fact, what we've had is a post on social media from the head of the Senate, John
Fix this up
Thune,
real
the senator,
quick.
who has said that.
Bear with me. All right.
And that's where these sanctions would come from in conjunction with the Treasury
Zelenskyy should be getting there any
well
second. It looks like this is his convoy, maybe?
Essentially, they're saying that they are standing ready.
Let's go back.
The economic leverage.
We'll take one of the quiet ones here, just for when he arrives. I mean, these guys got to have sound on, right? Maybe not. Really weird. It's the hill. This is probably, I think, the Ukrainian embassy, maybe? Or just some random onlookers. It doesn't look like a protest or anything like that.
No, because that big ass black.
Hey, Leia 2. I'm well. I hope you're doing well as well. That was a lot of wells. We're just waiting to see what happens here. It's a big day. Hopefully something positive comes from it. I don't know what that looks like. It's going to be tough. It seems like, Putin's pretty dead set on taking a lot of eastern Ukraine, Donbass, and more. So, you know, I guess my fear with all this is if Putin doesn't get everything he wants, but he does agree, then what's going to happen in 5 years, you know? It's kind of what I worry about. White House Century would be a boring duty station. Yeah, I agree. I was talking earlier, MG, I don't know if you heard me, but one time I had to do this, be the flag bearer for a change of command ceremony, and it was in Iraq. And I almost passed out. Somebody else had to take the flag off my hands. Have no expectations. Yeah. It's a really weird situation because I don't see Putin accepting anything less than what he wants, which seems to be those 4 regions. And then I don't see Zelenskyy agreeing to that. So, or any of these European leaders. So, like, what does that mean? The thing is, if NATO's not going to step up and provide soldiers and provide equipment to continue the war, then I don't know. It's really weird. This is a really crazy situation. It's hard to see a situation come out where Putin doesn't become victorious in one way or another, either now or in 5 or 10 years, because we've seen pretty much since the collapse of the Soviet Union, they've had 2 Chechnya wars, they've had 2 or more really Ukrainian wars, and then they invaded Georgia as well. And that's probably not even all of them that I can think of just off the top of my head. Obviously, they were in Syria quite a bit for that whole civil war. I mean, Russia's had people all over the Middle East, so I don't know. It's very, very interesting what's going to happen out of this, and then if it's going to actually mean something. Yeah, MG, standing at attention during a change of command when there's, and we were inside a hangar, like an air-conditioned hangar, so it was just a bunch of hot, stagnant air. It was in the summer, too. It was in August. At the very end of our deployment, we did a change of command ceremony, and that was rough. So Zelenskyy still hasn't arrived. It's about 10 minutes late. He was supposed to be there a little earlier. It might be the DC traffic, though. If any of you have ever driven in DC, you know it's an absolute crapshoot. But hopefully we can at least, over the next hour or two, we can at least get some, I don't know if it'll be like an official press conference where everyone's standing up at podiums and stuff. That's going to be, there's like 7 or 8 guests here, I think. Here we go. Who is coming with Zelenskyy? So you've got Zelenskyy plus 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so 8 total people. So that would be 9 podiums, including Trump's, if that's the route they were going to go. So that would be chaotic. It's probably going to be more of a sit down in the Oval Office type deal with some cameras. I'm going to assume there won't be a flyover for this. I don't think Zelenskyy needs to be reminded of the equipment that the American military has. Putin, on the other hand, it's funny. It's been funny reading people's opinion on the whole flyover thing. So people were like, wow, why would we show Putin a sign of respect like that? And it's like, look, we flew a B-2 bomber and 4 F-35s over them. That's billions of dollars worth of stealth technology that Russia does not have. I think it was more of a reminder. And then you had the red carpet with F-22 Raptors flanked on either side. Like, I think that's a message, not a sign of respect. But that's just my interpretation. Live ended. All right. I don't know why. I was going to say, I don't know why that would end right now. It's not over. Now, I want to be able to hear just in case, they shout any questions or anything at Zelenskyy. Maybe he has something to say. Oh, thanks for that follow, too, MG, over on Kick. Thank you. Yeah, I've always wondered what it would be like, one of these details. Be the Marine that stands outside of the president's chopper. You just salute him a couple times a day. What do they do in between? There's got to be like a room in the White House that they all hang out in or something. It's killing time, waiting to see if they're needed. All right, we have a vehicle arriving, and it looks to be Zelenskyy. That is, I believe that's a Ukrainian. Yeah, that's a Ukrainian flag. Got the blue up top, the yellow on the bottom. So this should be Zelenskyy. And he is dressed, if anyone cares, he is wearing a suit today. All black, my style. Mad respect for that. Look at that. These guys like each other.
Message to the people of Ukraine as world leaders gather here today. Russia continues to attack civilians in Kharkiv, killing many. Is there a just ultimate peace on the table? Will you see land for Russia?
All right, well, they tried to shout out a couple questions to Trump real quick, but they were just doing a quick little smile for the camera, and now they're inside. I'm going to leave this up for a second. I just got to use the bathroom real quick, and then we'll be back. Yeah, he was only 15 minutes late. Look, if you're the president of any country, you were afforded at least 15 minutes, regardless of who you're working with. These are busy people, so we won't talk bad on Zelenskyy for being a few minutes late. He probably just had to use the bathroom or got caught in traffic or something. I'll be back in 1 sec.
Bu da toplantının
You guys good? Oh, wait a second. They got you guys here. This one's not so.
All right, I'm back. Let's see. I would never speak ill of him, at least not about his international politics. Like, this guy's doing all he can. Yeah, Zelenskyy? Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. Has he done everything right every step of the way? No, of course not. But, you know, when you talk about leaders and stuff, first you got to consider what the alternatives are. And, you know, I know, I'm not trying to talk bad on Ukraine, but there's some, you know, less than respectable political parties and whatnot. So all things considered, I mean, Ukraine, you really actually might have one of the best people for the job. But, you know, I've talked multiple times about just comparing Ukraine to Russia. Russia has 5 times as many people. They've got 15 or 20 times as much land. They've got way more resources. I mean, the fact that Ukraine has even been able to keep up this defense, regardless of the fact that there's a lot of, you know, help coming to them, but the fact that Ukraine's been able to continually defend their country for 3.5 years against someone as large as Russia, it really does say a lot about Zelenskyy and his resolve, his tenacity. Yeah, you know, exactly. I mean, you guys could definitely be in a much worse scenario as far as leadership. Now, I know there's, you know, some domestic things that have happened that in turn.
Seven very powerful leaders from Europe, and we're going to be meeting with them right after this meeting. And thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. If I can, first of all, thank you for invitation, and thank you very much for your efforts, personal efforts to stop killings and stop this war. Thank you. And using this opportunity, many thanks to your wife, First Lady of the United States. She sent a letter to Putin about our children, abducted children, and my wife, First Lady of Ukraine. She gave the letter. It's not to you, to your wife.
Oh, I want
Yeah. So we are saying this sensitive topic, yes, please. And thanks to our partners, and that you supported this format, that after our meeting we can have leaders who are around us, UK and France, Germany, Italy, Finland, EU, NATO, I mean all partners around Ukraine supporting us. Thanks to them, and thank you very much for invitation.
Thank you very much for being here.
President Trump.
Do you think it's fair?
Yes, Peter, go ahead.
Thank you, President Trump. So, President Zelenskyy, you say in a post on X today, Russia must end this war, which it itself started. President Trump, you say President Zelenskyy of Ukraine can end the war with Russia almost immediately if he wants to. Which is it?
Yeah, I think that's true. I think we're going to have a meeting. I think if everything works out well today, we'll have a trilat. And I think there will be a reasonable chance of ending the war when we do that.
And is this the end of the road for American support for Ukraine? Is today's meeting deal or no deal?
I can never say that. It's never the end of the road. People are being killed, and we want to stop that. So I would not say it's the end of the road. No, I think we have a good chance of doing it. It's been almost 4 years now that a lot of people were killed last week. A lot of people last week. I mean, millions of people killed, but a lot of people last week for whatever reason. A big number, a lot of soldiers, on both sides. And I know the president, I know myself, and I believe Vladimir Putin wants to see it ended.
And as you met with Putin on Friday, today you've got President Zelenskyy here. As you listen to Russia and Ukraine, which side has the better cards?
Well, I don't want to say that. I'm just here to be. Look, this isn't my war. This is Joe Biden's
What a question.
war. He's the one that had a lot to do with this happening, and we want to get it ended. And we want it to end good for everybody. We want it to end good. The people of Ukraine have suffered incredibly.
And to that point, President Zelenskyy, are you prepared to keep sending Ukrainian troops to their deaths for another couple years, or are you going to agree to redraw the maps?
Thank you for your question. So, first of all, we live under each day attacks. That today have been a lot of attacks and a lot of wounded people, and the child was dead, small one year and a half. So we need to stop this war, to stop Russia, and we need support American and European partners. And we will do our best for this. So, and I think we show that we are strong people, and we supported the idea of the United States, personally of President Trump, to stop this war, to make a diplomatic way of finishing this war. And we are ready for trilateral, as President said. This is a good signal about trilateral. I think this is very good. Thank you.
Mr. President,
yes, if the peace deal will be achieved, are you going to be willing to send American peacekeepers to Ukraine?
Well, we're going to work with Ukraine. We're going to work with everybody, and we're going to make sure that if there's peace, the peace is going to stay long term. This is very long term. We're not talking about a 2-year peace and then we end up in this mess again. We're going to make sure that everything's good. We'll work with Russia. We're going to work with Ukraine, and we're going to make sure it works. And I think if we can get to peace, it's going to work. I have no doubt about it.
Your team has talked about security guarantees. Could that involve U.S. troops? Would you rule that out in the future?
We'll let you know that maybe later today. We're meeting with 7 great leaders of great countries also, and we'll be talking about that. They'll all be involved, but there'll be a lot of help when it comes to security. There's going to be a lot of help. It's going to be good. They are first line of defense because they're there. They're Europe, but we're going to help them out also. We'll be involved.
Mr. President, Vladimir Putin mentioned that the war will not end without addressing the root causes of this war. Have you had an understanding what are the root causes of this war?
Well, look, the war is going to end. When it ends, I can't tell you, but the war is going to end, and this gentleman wants it to end, and Vladimir Putin wants it to end. I think the whole world is tired of it, and we're going to get it ended. It was, I've done 6 wars. I've ended 6 wars, and I thought this maybe would be the easiest one, and it's not the easiest one. It's a tough one. A lot of reasons for it, and they'll be talking about it for a long time, but they'll be talking about the others. Look, India, Pakistan, we're talking about the big places. When you look at, you just take a look at some of these wars. You go to Africa and take a look at that. Rwanda and the Congo, Republic of the Congo. That's been going on for 31 years. And so we've done a total of 6, and we really have 6, not including the fact that we obliterated, and it turned out to be a total obliteration, the nuclear, as you said, the future nuclear capability of Iran. And this one, I think we're going to get solved also. I feel confident we're going to get it solved.
Thank you,
Mr. President. Can you tell us about your conversations with European leaders and what they need to see to support an end to the war?
Yeah, well, we're going to be meeting with a great representative group and 7 very powerful, very big countries, and great people, all friends of mine and friends of yours. And we're going to have some suggestions made. They want to see peace. They would like to see peace.
President Trump, you said last
in
night
the red, in the red.
President Trump, do you think it's fair to for Ukraine and for Russia to achieve a lasting and durable peace if Ukraine cedes its territories that Russia hasn't yet conquered? Do you think it's a fair peace for Ukraine?
We're going to have a lasting peace. Just to answer the first part of your question, we're going to have a lasting peace. I hope it's going to be immediately. I hope it doesn't have to go on. And I think people of the whole world is going to be very happy when that's announced.
Thank you, Mr. President. You posted on social media, Mr. President, a very touching letter from the First Lady. And the letter was hand-delivered to President Putin. And it calls for an end to the war, essentially, because of the children and the children's future. Why did the First Lady feel that letter was necessary? Was it because she believes that Mr. Putin is the aggressor in the war? Is a similar letter being hand-delivered to President Zelenskyy?
So the First Lady felt very strongly. She's watched the same thing that you watch and that I watch. I see things that you don't get to see, and it's horrible. But when she's got a great love of children, she has a wonderful son that she loves, probably more than anybody, including me. I hate to say it, but she loves her son. She loves children, and she hates to see something like this happening. And that goes for other wars too. I mean, she sees the heartbreak, the parents, the funerals that you see on television. Always funerals. We want to see something other than funerals. No, she felt. It was a beautiful letter. It was very well received by him. And she did ask me to say, you know, she would love to see this end. She would love to see it end. And she says it very openly, very proudly, and with great sorrow because so many people have been killed.
Mr. President, last week,
Brian, go ahead, Brian.
Yes, sir. I've got a question for each of you.
Yes.
First of all, Mr. President Zelenskyy, you look fabulous in that suit.
I said the same thing.
Yeah, you look good.
I said the same thing.
Yeah, looks good on
I
you.
said the one that attacked you last time. See, now
I remember that.
Yeah, I apologize to you. You look wonderful. No, my first question for you, President Zelenskyy.
In the same suit. You see, I changed, you are not.
Maybe yours is much better. Real quickly, upon peace, God willing we get peace, are you open to holding an election in your country?
Yes, of course. We are open for election, yes. We have to do safety circumstances, and a little bit we need to work in the parliament, because during the war you can't have elections, but we can do security. We need, maybe, how to say, we need a truth, yes, everywhere, in the battlefield, in the sky, and the sea, yeah, to make possible for people to do democratic, open, legal elections.
So you say during the war you can't have elections. So let me just say 3.5 years from now, so you mean if we happen to be in a war with somebody, no more elections? Oh, that's good. I wonder what the fake
You like this idea?
Yeah.
No.
Speaking of news, I got a question for you. This sounds insane for me even to ask this, but do you think the American media really doesn't even want a peace deal because they've seen they've been so critical of you every step of the way as you lead the charge for peace?
It's an amazing phenomenon. I said that if in the settlement you got Moscow, St. Petersburg, and thousands of miles around them, they would say, I made a bad deal. The level of hatred and animosity is incredible. Not with all. I mean, we have great people up here. We also have terrible people up there that I think are told what to say. But, you know, in solving all of these wars, they don't even write about it. You know, I saw major wars. I saw wars that have been going on for 31, 35, and 37, and a couple of quicker ones. One that was going to go into a full-blown deal very quickly. You know what the one I'm talking about. It was a big one. But they don't even write about that. No matter what I do, no matter what, and you know, this is not anything to do with you. It's probably to your advantage in a certain way. But no matter what I do, no matter what deal I make, from my standpoint, you'll come out good. Maybe President Putin will come out good. But they'll say, Trump was absolutely horrible. It's just that, and I've lived with that for a long time. I've lived with it since just before the first election. I used to get great publicity. Now I get the worst publicity anyone's ever gotten in office, but I won in a landslide, so that people understand. They're the only ones that count, ultimately. But I've also had great reporters. I've had journalists that are very good. But it's very sad when you do the right thing. As an example, they said, because of the fact that Vladimir Putin came to American soil. This was a tremendous defeat for Donald Trump. No, it was really wonderful that he did it. It was a hard thing for him to do, to be honest with you. It was the opposite of what they said, but they said it. Now, if he didn't come, they'd say that was also bad for Trump. You know, there's no way. And there's just a great dishonesty of the press, and I think that's why it's lost its credibility. You know, its credibility is at an all-time low. We have a thing going on right now in D.C. We went from the...
All right, I don't want to hear this speech for the 3,000th time, but so far, lots of interesting things said. Questions not totally answered. I know, Leah, too, you were talking about guarantees, and I think you were responding to the question if the United States would provide troops or not to Russia, or I'm sorry, to Ukraine, to help the peace last with Russia. And Trump's answer was, we're going to stay involved, but it wasn't a direct yes. So what does that mean? Is it funding? Is it people? Is it military equipment? Yeah, not really sure on that. Yeah, I mean, Zelenskyy, he's a likable guy. He said, you know, they'll have elections as soon as they can. It's understandable that they haven't been able to have elections. I mean, their country's been invaded. They're getting now most of what they're dealing with, or a lot of what they're dealing with, if you're not on the front lines, is incessant drone strikes and missile strikes. So how do you have an election during that when you know someone like Putin would probably take advantage of it and try to bomb polling stations or whatever? I mean, yeah, exactly. How would they pull off an election? So if they were to secure peace, hopefully there could be an election soon. Let's see what they're talking about now.
Consequences, does that change because of
I
the
don't
meeting
think you
with
need a
President Putin?
ceasefire. You know, if you look at the 6 deals that I settled this year, they were all at war. I didn't do any ceasefires. And I know that it might be good to have, but I can also understand strategically why, well, you know, one country or the other wouldn't want it. You have a ceasefire and they rebuild and rebuild and rebuild, and, you know, maybe they don't want that. But if you look at the 6 deals that we made peace and you know, long-term, long-running wars, I didn't do any ceasefires. Would I like the concept, you know, I like the concept of a ceasefire for one reason, because you'd stop killing people immediately, as opposed to in 2 weeks or 1 week or whatever it takes. But we can work a deal where we're working on a peace deal while they're fighting. They have to fight. I wish they could stop. I'd like them to stop. But strategically, that could be a disadvantage for one side or the other. But all of these deals I made without even the mention of the words ceasefire.
Are you President Zelenskyy, are you disappointed that there's no ceasefire? The decision to offer Ukraine Article 5-like security guarantees, but stop short of pushing for their full membership?
Yeah, well, we haven't done anything on that yet. If you look back and you go back long before President Putin, it was always a statement that they would never allow Ukraine into NATO. So that was a statement that was made, but we haven't discussed any of that yet. We're going to be discussing it today, but we will give them very good protection, very good security. That's part of it. And the people that are waiting for us, they are, I think they're very like-minded. They want to help out also.
Thank you, President. Thank you, President Trump.
Are you disappointed there's no ceasefire, Mr. President?
The United States has already given hundreds of billions of dollars to this war effort in Ukraine. At best, it is a stalemate, and the killing continues. So, President Trump, how much more is the United States willing to give Ukraine? And President Zelenskyy, how much more do you want?
Well, I'll start off just by saying we're not giving anything now. We're selling weapons. This is something before, I guess the number is well over $300 billion. That was under Joe Biden, a corrupt politician, not a smart man, never was. By the way, go back 40 years, he was not a smart man 40 years ago either, but now he's in particular bad. This was done by a corrupt administration that shouldn't have been in, and frankly, if the right results of the election were given, if I were president, this war would have never taken place, and he would have been very happy, because he would have liked to have seen, I mean, they went through hell. He went through hell. This war would have never happened, and the people that were killed, a couple of million people, a lot of people with soldiers and everything else, And the people that have been displaced and forced into other areas and other countries because of what's happened, none of that would have happened. And I'm just saying that he was a horrible president, whether it was the borders or this. He was just a horrible, corrupt president.
Mr.
President, you want to answer?
I can. Thank you so much. So first of all, we have possibility now to buy weapon from the United States. We are thankful for this program and this opportunity. We are thankful for Europe. They pay for this. And through NATO program, for example, Pearl and etc., we have some programs where we can have some money to finance this. And this is a part, I think, it's not a part for the war and to defend us. It also will be a part for security guarantees, to strengthen our army, to rearm Ukrainian army. This is very, very important. And it depends how much money we need to rearm. For example, the question of air defense, we spoke about it with President Trump, and I'm happy that we have now bilateral decisions and we work on it with production, American production. Nobody in Europe has so many air defense like Patriots, for example. We need it very much, and this is also about defending.
I think the good news, we make the best military equipment in the world by far. You mentioned the Patriots. How good are they?
Systems.
We have systems, they're literally 100% foolproof. And it's really like shooting two bullets, two bullets hitting each other in the air in a space like this. The chance is 100%. It's 99 to 100%. So we sell the equipment to NATO. And NATO does what, I don't know what the arrangement is that you have with, but I know that they want you to have the equipment. And we're getting the best equipment in the world, but they pay us for the equipment. Under Biden, it was just crazy what was going on. I believe the number is over 300. I think it could be $350 billion worth of equipment and money and everything else. And we've made more progress in settling this war in the last 2 months than they made in 4 years. This should have been settled a long time ago, but it should have never happened. Yeah, please.
Real quickly, you pushed out on social media.
All right, Brian, go first.
You pushed out on social media about doing away with mail-in ballots and potentially electronic voting machines. Can you expand on that and how important that is?
Well, that's a very off-topic, just really quickly. Mail-in ballots are corrupt.
Yeah, I don't want to hear about mail-in ballots, but I mean, so far everything, like, everybody's talking a good game, but it's really going to come down to what they come out with after the meeting with all the rest of the European leaders. And I sure this will probably go on for a little bit, and then they'll probably retreat behind closed doors. So I wish these reporters would try and stay on topic instead of talking about mail-in ballots or media bias. That's not really what we're here for.
Times more expensive than paper ballots. And paper ballots are very sophisticated with the watermark paper and everything else. We would get secure.
And yeah, Leia too. Like, the Ukrainians that are living in occupied Russian territory would never be allowed to go out and vote for the next, Ukrainian president, regardless of, what happens in the future, whether that territory goes to Russia or it stays in Ukraine. At least right now, none of those people are going to be able to go out and vote. Russia would never allow it.
Carter, with this commission, they set it up. He said, the one thing about mail-in voting, you will never have an honest election if you have mail-in. And it's time that the Republicans get tough and stop it, because the Democrats want it. It's the only way they can get elected. Because with men and women's sports and with transgender for everybody and open borders and all of the horrible things, and now the new thing is they love crime. They're fighting me on the fact that I've made Washington, D.C. safe. We're not.
Yeah, giving Zelenskyy a nice little breather for a moment while Trump reminds us of the things that he never stops reminding us of. But yeah, I'm sure they'll get back on topic soon. But some of these reporters, they only get so many opportunities, I guess, to ask questions. So they want to. I also think the mail-in thing, it somewhat ties into this, just because apparently Trump and Putin had a conversation where Putin told Trump that mail-in ballots shouldn't be allowed, and so they have this agreement on eliminating mail-in ballots or whatever. So I guess maybe that's why this reporter decided to ask that question. But ultimately, I mean, we want to hear about Ukraine and what's going to happen next there.
That's bigger than anything having to do with redistricting, believe me. And the Republicans have to get smart. We're not going to have a country. I said for a long time at rallies, you need borders and you need free and fair elections. Those two things, otherwise we have strong borders now. In 90 days, Mr. President, we didn't have 0 in 3 months. Not one person came in illegally into our country. In fact, even I find that hard to believe, but it's run by a little bit of a liberal group that put out the numbers, so I guess but 0, 0, and 0. You go back a year ago, 2 years ago, millions of people poured into our country. It was terrible. Thank you very much.
What security guarantees do you need from President Trump to be able to make a deal? Is it American troops, intelligence, equipment? What is it?
Everything. Really,
He wants it all.
It's two parts. First, strong Ukrainian army. That's what I began to discuss with your colleagues. And it's a lot about weapon and then people and training missions and intelligence. And second, we will discuss with our partners. It depends on the big countries, on the United States, on a lot of our friends.
And Mr. President, are you willing to commit American troops to that NATO-like protection in order to get President Zelenskyy to a deal today?
Well, I don't know if you define it that way, but NATO-like, I mean, we have people waiting in another room right now. They're all here from Europe, biggest people in Europe, and they want to give protection. They feel very strongly about it, and we'll help them out with that. I think it's very important. I think it's very important to get the deal done.
You've been involved with the peacekeeping in Ukraine since your first day in the administration. What would you say to the Ukrainian people right now who are suffering under the Russian attacks and hoping that the American people will stand with them?
Well, I know Ukrainian people. I've known many over the years. They're great people. They're smart. They're energetic. They love their country. I mean, they love their country, and we want to get this war ended. That's all I can do. I love the Ukrainian people, but I love all people. I love the Russian people. I love them all. I want to get the war stopped. Very important.
Mr. President, was there any aspect of your discussion with Vladimir Putin that left you disappointed?
Look, I was just telling the president, I just spoke to President Putin indirectly, and we're going to have a phone call right after these meetings today. And we may or may not have a trilat. If we don't have a trilat, then the fighting continues. And if we do, we have a good chance. I think if we have a trilat, there's a good chance of maybe ending it. But he's expecting my call when we're finished with this meeting. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Let's go right on top of you. Let's go, guys. Thank you, press. Let's go. Let's go. Move. Come on, guys. Let's go. Thank you, guys. Thank you, press.
All right. Thank you, press. So there you have it. It looks like basically what Trump just said was, he's hoping after this meeting, now I believe they're going to go meet with those 7 European leaders. It was 5 different leaders of countries, and then the NATO leader and the EU leader. Let's see who's coming with Zelenskyy. So we've got, it's going to be Trump, Zelenskyy, and then the French President Macron, German Chancellor Merz, UK Prime Minister Starmer, Italian PM Meloni, Finnish President Stubb. So those are the 5 countries that have accompanied. And then you've got the European Commission President, Ursula von der Leyen, and then the NATO Secretary General Rutte. So a lot of power in that room right now. They're going to be talking. And let me get to my Where am I? There we go. So yeah, they're going to be talking, and the hope, I think, it just seems like Trump's hope is that after this talk, he can propose, I guess, something vaguely to Putin, and then hopefully that's the catalyst for trilateral talks. And I assume by trilateral they mean Ukraine, Russia, and then the United States would be the third party. I'm assuming. Um, I don't imagine it would be NATO or someone from the UN or the EU, although maybe it would be. But I think it's probably Trump, Zelenskyy, and Putin that he's talking about. So I mean, we'll see if that happens. That this is all kind of coming together really quickly. Basically, I mean, the timeline for this, just this month, at the end of July, is when Trump made that, hey, you've got 50 days to stop deadline. And then, of course, within a couple days, the missile strikes and the drone strikes had been really stepped up against Ukraine by Russia. So that was the catalyst for Trump to say, okay, you don't have 50 days, now you have 10 days. And so that deadline was August 8th. Of course, the missile and drone attacks did not stop from Russia. And then August 8th hit and nothing happened from the United States. There was no increase of sanctions or anything. There's really not much left to sanction. I think total trade between the two countries is like a couple $2 billion of it's mostly medical equipment and stuff that we trade, some raw materials here and there, but it's really not much at all anymore. So there's not a lot left to take away. I'm guessing Trump kind of realized that, and that's maybe why he invited Putin. But a week later, on the 15th of August, Putin was in the United States at Elmendorf, the base I was born at, talking with Trump. So that was the first meeting recently between the United States and any nation really directly in regards to Ukraine. So he meets with Russia, and then 1, 2, 3 days later, now we've got the Ukrainian president and a full entourage of very high-ranking people from across Europe coming. So in the last 3 days, Putin's come to America, Zelensky's come to America, a bunch of presidents or leaders of different countries, and then of course you've got NATO Secretary General, and then the EU. She's not president. I can't remember what is the European Commission. Oh yeah, Commission president. Okay, it is president Ursula von der Leyen. So yeah, I mean, we'll see where this goes. We'll probably find out more as the day goes on. I think what's going to happen is it's going to be kind of an on and off thing, where there's going to be what it seems like is there's going to be some press conferences here and there, and then they're going to go away, and then they're going to come back. We'll see. They're probably just
presumably to bring them up to date
giving their
with,
analysis now. Sky News, that's Australian. Al Jazeera, that's Qatari. So not necessarily the voices we're looking for.
He spoke.
We can see what they have to say.
I think the longest answer of that entire press conference was on mail-in ballots, a niche element of American.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. I sometimes there are many valid complaints about the American press, and one of them is that they just cannot stay on topic. I mean, this is a very important meeting, and I wish they would pull credentials from people for doing stuff like this instead of just petty squabbles and disagreements. But why are they asking those questions when we have this going on? It's kind of sad, but it is what it is.
Trump said that the Europeans, the people in the next room, as he called them, would be the first line of defense. But, and I quote, "We are going to help them out also. We will be there." Now, Donald Trump was then pushed whether or not that meant there would be troops, a US troop presence in Ukraine, and he said, we'll let you know on that maybe later today. So an incredibly open statement, I thought, music to the ears of, I suspect, some European leaders who for months have been contemplating the prospect that actually the US may be barely, almost completely unengaged. There was a point at which we thought a minerals deal was about the extent of US involvement ongoing in Ukraine. And then there was one more bit that stood out for me when Donald Trump NATO protection for Ukraine. And he said, I'm not sure I'd describe it like that. There are people waiting in another room. They will want to give protection and we will help them. So to me, it sounds as if Donald Trump, in his mind, has accepted and started to sketch out, to some level of specificity, US involvement in ongoing protection of Ukraine in the event that there is a peace deal. And it sounds like we have taken a big leap forward on that issue of what Donald Trump is willing to do today. What there was not, however, was a discussion of territory. I don't know whether you heard anything on that through the press conference, Mark, but that did.
Yeah, that's going to be the real kicker in this deal is going to be what's going to happen with territory. And so we'll just look here real quick on the map. Now, Russia has a good chunk of these two regions. So you got the Donetsk region here, you got the Luhansk region here. They also want the Zaporizhzhia region and the Kherson region here. Okay. Now they annexed this Crimea back in 2014. So basically all this land's kind of leading them towards Crimea, which they've already annexed. I could see a deal, Putin possibly taking a deal where Crimea officially becomes Russia. Remember, Ukraine hasn't had this for a long time. And then maybe they get to keep some of the land that they currently occupy. I think they occupy something like 75% of Donetsk and Luhansk. I could see Putin agreeing to that, but I also see that not lasting. And the thing is, it would be, under the condition that also there would be NATO troops, European troops, possibly even American troops here. Kind of maybe seems where this is going. Now, Zelenskyy has said he's not going to. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I forgot to switch over. Oops. Here we go. So we got Crimea here. Russia annexed that back in 2014. Then these are the four main regions here that Russia is trying to acquire. So they've got roughly, I think, about 75% of the Donetsk and the Luhansk region. Now you got Zaporizhzhia here, and then you got Kherson here. All right. So they're trying to basically take all these regions, which lead them to this, which they already have annexed. So the deal yeah, I know, Leia, too. It does take me a while sometimes. But the deal I'm thinking might actually work is one where this land's given up officially, and then part of these lands are given up just in these two regions, but also now NATO troops, possibly US troops, and then, maybe Germany sends some troops, maybe the UK sends some troops, but there would be some sort of peacekeeping force in Ukraine if what I'm thinking might happen does happen. I don't see Putin stopping without any sort of gains. That would be that would look like a massive defeat for him to his own people. So, but at the same time, Zelensky's saying, I'm not giving any territory up. So this is going to be tough. This is going to be real tough. There's a map with the current occupied. Yeah. No, I just got Google Earth here. Let me, I'm sure we can find that pretty quick. Ukrainian map with Russian occupation. Okay. Yeah. We should be able to find that nice and quick here. So these all look more or less the same. Just let's see, when was this put out? Updated July 7th, 2022. Okay, that is not what we were looking for. Here we go, 2 days ago. All right, this is understandingwar.org. All right, here's current map. So you've got, all right, all these blue are Ukrainian counteroffensives. Then you've got the red, which is assessed Russian control Ukrainian territory. Then you've got Russian advances in Ukraine. They're calling that for this. Basically, they have Crimea essentially, and then they have this part of Donetsk and Luhansk. And so, as you can see, it's all along this southeastern strip and eastern strip of Ukraine. Let me zoom that in just a little more here. So there we go. Oh, you got one right there? Oh, there's an actual, okay, it's called Deep State. Oh, nice. It's like interactive. Okay, cool. Very good. Explore. All right. So these purple regions essentially belong to Russia now. Not officially, not recognized by the world, but Russia has complete control. Now, these red regions are, I assume, where fighting's still happening, advances are still being made. Green regions, I think those are counteroffensives, I believe. Let's see, is there info in the legend? Here we go. Green is liberated. So green means they have taken that back, the Ukrainians have. This reddish, let's see, kind of orangish-ish is going to be, occupied after February 24th. And then, okay, these were occupied before February 24th. Got it. Okay. So obviously you have Crimea and then part of that other invasion last decade. All right. And then these are temporarily occupied regions. All the rest of this. And then presumably these marks represent different units on the battlefield. Wow. They have all this information. That's crazy. So yeah, I mean, Russia does have, of these 4 regions, they have a significant amount of territory, unfortunately. All right. So what does the deal look like? Hopefully we find out in the next couple days. Trump, yeah, that's his headline, is we have a good chance of ending the war if we can have trilateral talks. So basically he's saying if Putin's willing to come to the table, he feels that he's going to be able to secure a deal. I think, he's being intentionally vague about the deal because he's still maybe working that out in his head, what that's going to look like. Obviously, I think he wants something that everyone's going to agree to, but also something that's going to last for a long time. The MO with Russia is they take a little bit, they wait 5 or 10 years. They take a little bit, they wait 5 or 10 years. They take a little bit and they wait 5 or 10 years. This has been a pattern pretty much since the fall of the USSR that they've continuously engaged in. So, at this point, do you really believe Putin, even if he gets Crimea and part of those regions? Do you believe him that he's actually going to stop there? At this point, it's, father time is either Ukraine's greatest ally or greatest adversary. Is Putin going to live to be 95? If he does, that could be a huge problem for Ukraine. If Putin's gone in a couple of years and dies of old age, I think he's 72 now. Then a lot of this might go away soon. And, whoever takes over Russia next, maybe they're not as expansionist. Or I guess their viewpoint is that they're just reclaiming what they think is rightfully theirs. According to Russia, these are Russian-speaking lands that are pro-Russian and want to be part of Russia, according to them, of course, But again, that's kind of like America saying that Canada wants to be part of America. We're saying we're kind of putting words in other people's mouths that might or might not be true. So yeah, Still a lot to come out of this. Let's see if they're saying anything smart here. We might switch stations.
And Vladimir Putin to end the war, and also talking about the need for security guarantees and building up his military and air defence is crucial, he said, in the run-up to peace. And he also talked about those attacks in the last 24 hours on his country. Let's have a listen to some of the Oval Office meeting between the two presidents.
You know,
It's an honor
another thing
to
that
have
I
the
want to just mention with the whole Putin taking a deal, when you're on the eve of peace talks and ceasefire deals or something, and you're stepping up your attacks, your missile attacks and your drone attacks, which is exactly what Putin's been doing over pretty much this month, all of August. He's trying to beat them into submission to take less than what they're asking for by stepping up attacks right before these talks. That's exactly what Putin's doing. And that's what kind of leads me, part of me, to believe that I don't know if Putin's going to take any sort of deal that doesn't involve him getting all four of those regions, plus, you know, an official acknowledgement that Russia owns Crimea. So, you know, on one hand, you got a smiling Putin. You got him saying, "Oh yeah, we'll talk, we'll talk. Oh yeah, you know, I want peace." Apparently, he's told Trump he wants peace. Apparently, he's acting as if this letter Melania Trump sent him, talking about the children of Ukraine. He's talking as if that had an impact on him, and yet simultaneously, he stepped up drone and missile strikes. So, you know, it's say one thing and do another. With Putin, he's one of the world's greatest con men, in my opinion. Then that's what he is. He's a con man. He's ex-KGB. So he may agree to something that he doesn't actually agree on, and be wanting to, you know, take some sort of actions in 5 or 10 years. Or maybe he does want to end the war, but it just, you know, nothing about anything I know about Putin makes me think he actually cares about human suffering or anything of that sort.
Try that, and I think there will be a reasonable chance of ending the war when we do that.
And, is this the end of the road for American support for Ukraine? Is today's meeting deal or no deal?
I can never say that. It's never the end of the road. People are being killed, and we want to stop that. So I would not say it's the end of the road. No, I think we have a good chance of doing it. It's been almost 4 years now that a lot of people were killed last week. A lot of people last week. I mean, millions of people killed, but a lot of people last week for whatever reason. A big number, a lot of soldiers, on both sides. And I know.
Well, I think I just said the reason why a lot of people have been killed in Ukraine. It's about going into this deal with as much power as possible and trying to make your enemies submit. I mean, that's what Putin's doing here.
Well, I don't want to say that. I'm just here to be. Look, this isn't my war. This is Joe Biden's war. He's the one that.
Exactly,
Leia.
We know exactly
and,
why.
We want to get it ended, and we want it to end good for everybody. We want it to end good. The people of Ukraine have suffered incredibly.
President Zelenskyy, are you prepared to keep sending Ukrainian troops to their deaths for another couple years, or are you going to agree to redraw the maps?
Thank you for your question. So, first of all, you know, we live under each day attacks. You know that today have been a lot of attacks and a lot of wounded people, and the child was dead, small one year and a half. So we need to stop this war, to stop Russia, and we need support American and European partners. And we will do our best for this.
Yeah, I mean, that's really all this is about for Ukrainians, is just wanting their own autonomy, wanting their own country, not wanting to live under Russian rule. It's pretty simple for Ukraine. Pretty simple. And that, I mean, I think that's why Russia's had such a hard time actually winning this war, is because the Ukrainians, they really don't want to be Russians. It's very apparent. So when Putin says things like, "Oh yeah, the Eastern Ukrainians are basically Russians," it's like if they wanted to be Russians, they would have defected, or they would have, there would be some huge showing of support for Russia, and that just has not existed. You are not finding large swaths of people in Ukraine going, "Yeah, come on, Russia, we want you." It's just not happening, especially after how the last 3.5 years have gone. You've got, likely hundreds of thousands now Ukrainians that have died because of this war. The last thing they want is to become Russians in the end of it.
We'll let you know that maybe later today. We're meeting with 7 great leaders of great countries also, and we'll be talking about that. They'll all be involved, but there'll be a lot of help when it comes to security. There's going to be a lot of help. It's going to be good. They are first line of defense because they're there. They're Europe, but we're going to help them out also. We'll be involved.
Mr. President, Vladimir Putin mentioned that the war will not end without addressing the root causes of this war. Have you had an understanding what are the root causes of this war?
Well, look, the war is going to end. When it ends, I can't tell you, but the war is going to end, and this gentleman wants it to end, and Vladimir Putin wants it to end. I think the whole world is tired of it, and we're going to get it ended. It was, I've done 6 wars. I've ended 6 wars, and I thought this maybe would be the easiest one, and it's not the easiest one.
It is kind of wild, that statement. He thought that this would be an easy war to end. Yeah, Russia never acknowledged the existence of Ukraine. Yeah. It's sad. I mean, I've said it many times, but Russia feels they have a sense of entitlement to these lands. They just feel like this is Russia, essentially. Just like they feel, Chechnya is Russia, and Georgia is Russia, and probably all these other regions eventually are going to be Russia. This is one of the wars Trump was talking about having help ended, was Azerbaijan and Armenia, which they have been fighting over disputed territory since the since the collapse of the Soviet Union. But there's peace between these two countries now, but I mean, how long is Russia going to not care about? These are countries that Russia may feel entitled to as well. We know that they already invaded Georgia. That happened, 10, 15 years ago. So, I mean, Russia is very obviously expanding. They've been very brazen about it. What does a deal with them look like to someone who feels entitled to probably all of this land and more? Belarus, I think the only reason they're not messing with Belarus is because they're so pro-Russian and pro-friendly. You know what I mean? They're basically a puppet state of Russia at this point. So they don't have to worry about being invaded. But also, I mean, back in the 80s, Afghanistan here was essentially a puppet state of the USSR, and it was a mere squabble between some politicians led to a 10-year-long war that essentially sank the Soviet Union. So even Belarus, they may be safe now and pro-Russia now, but I mean, they have one little disagreement. They could be next on the chopping block. So I don't know, really what's going to happen if they actually want to stop Russia from expanding, there's going to have to be a very large peacekeeping force in Ukraine. A multinational, it might be NATO troops, but ultimately, having troops with many different flags on their shoulders, I think sends even more of a message than just NATO troops or some UN peacekeeping troops. I mean, I heard one report of, the UN peacekeeping troops in Lebanon were literally camped out at their camp, and then right outside their camp was Hezbollah shooting missiles into Israel. So, what are UN peacekeeping troops really good for? It depends on where they are and what their mission is and what they're allowed to do. But It's going to take some actual armies in Ukraine to get Putin to stop, because he's got to see that actual hostile force sitting right in front of him. Just sending equipment and money to Ukraine has not been enough to convince him to stop. So I think, part of Trump's deal with not sending any more weapons or money to Ukraine and forcing it to come from NATO, I think he had hoped maybe that would have been enough to scare Putin off, was him seeing NATO start supplying the arms. But that alone, it wasn't enough. So, yeah. What's the next deal, the next proposal going to be?
We need to work in the parliament, because during the war you can't have elections, but we can do security. We need, we need a truth, yes, everywhere, in the battlefield, in the sky, and the sea, to make possible for people to do democratic, open, legal elections.
So you say during the war you can't have elections. So let me just say 3.5 years from now. So you mean if we happen to be in a war with somebody, no more elections? Oh, that's good.
Yeah, Trump's got jokes. All right. Well, I think, it's probably not going to be until the end of the day till we get much more. Yeah, no, you're totally right, Leia, too. And they say Russia is an imperialist. Of course, they're imperialists. NATO was created to keep peace, and now they just pathetic. Yeah, exactly. In the UN too, same thing. They're meant to the very creation of those organizations was the precipice was, let's not allow another large scale war in the mainland of Europe to happen. And what do you have happening right now in Europe? A large scale war. So you've got NATO, and this is something I've said too, Leia, too. After kind of being able to reflect over the weekend on Friday, and obviously America invited Putin, or Trump invited Putin to America. He's wanted by the international criminal courts. He's got an arrest warrant as being a war criminal. Some, depending on what academic society you talk to, they would even go so far as saying he's conducting a genocide against Ukrainians. There have been Russian publications that have advocated for genocide against Ukrainians, flat out. But after thinking about all of that, and then seeing yesterday there was a large conference, basically exclaiming, there was a large conference in Europe with NATO, and then Zelenskyy was there, and of course there were a lot of member nations. Kind of talking about how they're coming to these states, and then talking about some of what needs to happen for peace and all this and all that, and it's like, where you guys been for the last 3.5 years? I'm glad that they're finally talking about it, but it does make me sad. This is the point I was trying to make. After thinking about this over the weekend, it's kind of saddening that it took Trump inviting a war criminal to the United States to get NATO to actually get together and start getting serious about this. That's what had to happen. It's insane. It's crazy. I mean, the world has truly let Ukraine down. I think a lot of countries in Europe thought they'd throw a little money at the problem and it would fix itself, while simultaneously continuing to buy Russian gas and oil. And now at this point in the war, we're 3.5 years in, they're finally really cut that down quite a bit. You still got some Eastern European countries buying Russian gas and Russian oil, but Europe has really not taken a front seat in this conflict. They've said some things, and they've sent money and stuff. No one sent troops. There's been people who have volunteered to go fight for Ukraine who come from Europe. There's a lot of British people, Germans, French, and what have you that are in Ukraine right now voluntarily fighting against the Russians. But for a large part, NATO's been virtually silent. The United Nations, virtually silent. They've all come out and condemned Russian advances and stuff, but they haven't actually done anything. And now they're finally getting together. And it took Trump inviting Putin to America for it to say, and it's sad. It's really sad. But I feel like Ukraine is essentially I feel like the Western world has used this as an opportunity to bleed out the Russian military and the Russian economy. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, Russia is not an ally of the United States. They never really have been. We try to be cordial, and we try to be cordial because they have thousands of nuclear missiles pointed at us, and we have thousands of nuclear missiles pointed at them. And if things don't stay cordial, the world could frickin' end. But yes, in Russia, still in the UN. Yeah, exactly. Russia still has membership in different organizations across the world. I think they're still part of the BRIC nations: Brazil, Russia, India, China. Is that it? BRIC nations. It's Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Proposed new members, and they're adding more countries. So, it's all a weird thing, right? Ukraine's been suffering immensely. This is the biggest war we've seen since World War II. NATO's done virtually nothing about it. Russia's still part of the UN. They've got their BRICS thing going on. And I mean, those nations are not exactly all pro-US. It's odd that Brazil's part of that. India, kind of odd, but kind of not at the same time. But yeah. Yeah. Anyways, I'm going to call it there for today. There's still going to be more that comes out slowly, trickles out over this. But really, I think the next thing we're looking for, are there going to be trilateral talks or not? And I mean, that really, it could happen this week with as quickly as the rest of this is happening. Last Monday or Tuesdays when they announced Putin was going to come to Alaska. And then that happened on Friday. And I think it was Saturday I think it was Saturday. They announced that all these leaders were going to be coming to the States. That was a whole 2 days notice. So after these conferences with Trump and everybody else who came along, Zelenskyy, we might have a date very, very soon in the next few days. Yeah, you're welcome, MG. Yeah, absolutely. Stay safe, Leia, too. I just want you to know, regardless of what the United States government does, there are many people in the United States who, we feel very strongly in support of just the average Ukrainian citizens who are suffering. Maybe people agree or disagree with Zelenskyy. That's a political matter. But at the end of the day, there are many people in the United States who feel strongly in support of Ukraine. And we all hope, just that people will stop dying, especially children, man. It's really sad. Obviously when this started, millions of Ukrainians had to flee the country, and then some of them chose to stay. I think if they would have known this would have gone on for 3.5 years, maybe they would have left too. But this is a hard thing. People had to leave their homes. They had to leave their possessions. And when this does end, and those people do come back, a lot of them are going to come back to completely destroyed villages. Their life as they knew it is completely gone. And then they're going to find out of all the people in their towns or their cities that perished in these conflicts. So this is a, really big thing, really tough, and hopefully it will be over soon. But we will. I'll have updates as soon as there's more to talk about. Probably do at least 1 or 2 more of these this week, depending on what happens. We will see. We're hanging in there. hoping for the best. And we also have more to talk about with Gaza. There's some things coming up with that too. So we'll be talking about Gaza and Ukraine primarily over the next week. Y'all have a great, great week.